Namaste. It's great to be in Austin, and it's our largest event yet. We are, after like a few years of not meeting so many people in person, it's so great to be here. And I think last time I had this, one of the bigger ones, it was here in Austin, but not nearly as big. So let's get with, I'm told, we looked at the data, about 75% of you are the first zoologists. That's why I'm going to keep, some of the material will be, the other 25% would have seen some of this, but I'm trying to put a fresh twist, a 2024 twist, so bear with us. And then you will see a lot of technology products, all that thrown at you in this event, except by me. I won't talk about any of it here, but you'll see what are our convictions we built this company from. So first, what exactly is Zoho? I'm going to start with the most basic, or who exactly, what exactly. So first, it's a unusual breadth, unusual depth, and there's only a couple of companies in the whole world that do this level of breadth and depth, and you know those names. So, and we are punching way above our weight here. And you can see, everything from this event, how it's organized, all these presentations, all the documentation system behind that, the presentation tools, all of it comes from this company built here. So that's the first unusual thing about it, right? Just the extraordinary, the product suite, the breadth and depth. That comes from an unusual commitment, almost an obsession to long-term R&D and innovation. So that is what has kept us relevant. And we've been at this now 28 years. So that's how long we've been in business. And I'm a co-founder. Our other co-founder, Tony, is here. And there's other co-founders in India. And we have all been together through this journey, all this while. So that commitment to long-term R&D. In fact, 50% of the time, I devote my own personal time to this R&D and innovation. So I still code. That without this, that a long-term R&D is not possible. Unusual set of people who stay with the company long-term. If you go ask any of the Zoho employees you meet here, you ask them how long have you been here? They might say 5 years, 8 years, 12 years, 15 years, 20 years. You'll get answers like that. And just people tend to stay in this company, which is very unusual. And in fact, and we believe, in fact, you will see through this presentation, that's very critical to both that R&D and ensuring that superior customer experience at every level. And this is another aspect of Zoho, the unusual long-term value. It's not just the price, it's our commitment to not nickel and dime you ever, and provide that value. And at the same time, we want to ensure that we take care of our employees well so that they can continue to serve you. And it's all from this one, again, unusual. We are about 15,000 employees, profitable. We are bigger than a lot of the public SaaS companies now, in terms of both headcount, in terms of revenue, in terms of profits, all of the metrics. But we have stayed private, and we are going to stay private as long as I have anything to say about that. And we keep growing year after year. I mean, you can see the events keep growing, but we have chosen to stay private. So I'll talk about that a little bit more. And that came from, why do we stay private? So we have the freedom to pursue all of these unusual choices. That if we didn't stay private, if we are public, I don't believe we could do all of the things we do, invest in all of this R&D, and invest in the long-term commitment to customers. And we are able to escape those quarter-to-quarter pressures. In other words, one good example, as long as we are profitable, we don't obsess about, are we growing the profit a certain percentage year over year? And we won't go and cut costs when you are already profitable. And this is one of the things you noticed last year. Very profitable companies laying off people, which to me is stupid. I don't understand why they do it. Because it's, they don't understand what it does to employee morale long term. that kind of thing. It's it's okay to understand a company in deep trouble. They have to cut costs to survive. That's fine, right? But you have actually very profitable companies who say we are not making enough of profit or enough numbers, enough growth. We're not showing, so we have to cut some people. I won't be able to make the statement as a public company CEO today, which tells you something about what our priorities have become in business. So we want to escape that type of pressure. That's why we have chosen to stay private. And that we can only afford that luxury if we don't take on debt. So all of the growth you've seen, we have zero debt on our balance sheet. Our balance sheet is one of the cleanest in the world. So which means I sleep well at night, our CFO sleeps well at night, and therefore our employees can sleep well at night. All of that. So I'm, extremely old-fashioned in all this. We do some of the state-of-the-art technology while remaining extremely old-fashioned in many of the ways we operate. And we started setting up offices in unusual locations well before the pandemic. It wasn't the pandemic that made us do it. And we continue this now. In fact, last couple of years, one of the fastest growing offices here in America is in McAllen, Texas. Not very many tech companies go there, but we have gone there. Now other companies have started looking at McAllen as an example. And I just came 3 days ago from a very remote village. My nearest international airport is about a 3.5-hour drive. And I live among a beautiful region, but a lot of rural poverty. Part of my mission, last 5 years I've lived there entirely. About 75% of the time I'm there. The rest of the time I'm traveling around like this. So I run a school in my village, and some of you have come there. We hosted a analyst meet. The school has expanded since. It's this year we are going to have about 750 people soon, 750 kids. But we are also starting a factory to provide employment. But to build the factory, we did some R&D. We had an R&D team, all of that. So basically, rural development powered by research and development. So I combine the two. So you have to combine R&D and R&D. That's what we call it. And all of this way of operating has allowed us to navigate some unusual times. Like we went through in our 28-year history, we suffered in the whole dot-com bust, then the global financial crisis, and of course the pandemic. Throughout all this, we kept our core intact. We could do it without resorting to this. So that's unusual too. So how does it all work? I mean, somebody told you that some company could be doing this in tech while innovating, while creating new products, while creating technology. Is it even possible? So this is one of the core principles here. We try to approach a problem with a fresh pair of eyes from first principles. In fact, I assume in anything, running a school or whatever, or we have started a clinic now, rural clinic, I start with I don't know. I actually don't know anything about this area. It's a good place to start because zero. And it's also that humility is there. And we emphasize humility in our company a lot. That I don't know is a good answer. Start there. And that's what allows us to learn. That's what allows us to absorb that information, process it, derive insights from it, all of it. But if we start with I already know answers, I already have all of these, then I won't be able to actually learn, have the openness of the mind to learn. And we seek actions that are grounded in conviction. Don't just act because you're forced to act. Don't just act for the sake of acting. Don't just launch a product or don't just do something because everybody is doing it. What are our convictions? And you can't go buy a conviction in the shop. You can't just go quickly sport a conviction. So you have to arrive at them slowly, painstakingly. Make some mistakes along the way. Realize maybe some things you did were not right. So again, the humility. If there are some things we did that we realize maybe we should do some other way, we make U-turns. And we actually say it again, the company, that these are things we tried, they didn't work, we'll make a U-turn, we'll try something else. But along the way, we slowly develop these convictions. So now, what are those convictions? I'll list some of them and we'll go through them quick. We don't ever monetize your data. This has been a very fundamental principle. We got on this whole privacy thing well before the regulations, for example, in Europe or in India and other parts of the world, are catching up to this now. Of course, Europe was one of the first places where stringent regulations came up. But we always took the stance, your data is your data, it's your asset. We don't ever monetize that. You pay us to use our software, we host your data, we hold it safe and secure, but we don't monetize it. So that's critical. That comes from privacy is a fundamental human right. And I want to make one thing clear in this. This is a separate, there's two aspects to privacy I want to clarify. One is the privacy in terms of the private realm, what vendors do with your data. The second is what the government gets to see. And these two, why I want to separate is, in any jurisdiction you operate, you are subject to the local laws. If you are operating in the Middle East, you are subject to laws. You are operating in India, you are subject to laws. In China, they have their laws. No private company can say, well, we'll disregard all those, we'll operate by our own laws. That's not possible. If somebody promises you they are lying, it's not possible to do it. I mean, they can have 0 employees, but they can block your site, right? So they may have 0 employees to arrest there, but they can block your site. So really a private company cannot guarantee that against the government. But what a private companies can do is what they do with respect to your privacy safeguard. And that's for most ordinary people, 80%, 90% of the issues come from that. How your data is monetized by the private sector. So I want to separate the two because it has to be important. Sometimes they get confused. And this is another thing. Again, for the cost of a lot of, if you go survey after survey show, a good number, 30, 40%, often 50% of people hate their jobs. They hold a job, they get a paycheck, but they don't love their jobs. And the more we apply the modern management principle of measure and manage, and you have this almost a religion, right? That you cannot measure, you cannot manage. Well, metrics are great for widgets. We measure everything about our software. We measure everything about the machines or AI or whatever we build. There's like hundreds of metrics. I don't believe that humans can be improved that way with metrics. That's a fundamentally bad philosophy, in my opinion. This idea that somehow you can apply endless amount of metrics to improve humans, that's what destroys the spirit of organizations, spirit of teams, all of it. This is a very core value in our company. And right from that is, if we keep our employees happy, they'll keep the customers happy. So, which is why if you want to prevent customer attrition, first we have to focus on employee attrition. Are we turning our employees rapidly? These things, and I stated it will sound obvious, but most companies don't even seem to realize it. There are, in Silicon Valley, about 20-25% turnover every year is accepted as a norm in most companies. Sometimes 40%. I met a founder a few months ago and I asked him, what's your annual attrition of employees? He said, yeah, it's not terrible. He said about 25%. I mean, you would consider like 7% terrible in our company. So I told him, no, you have to rethink this. 25% is terrible, awful, I told him. So, and this is another. Before we ask for loyalty from our employees, we ask what have we invested in building the skills and the capabilities. Because to me, that's part of the long-term growth. It's a cliche, it's a thing that's said your most important asset is in the heads of your people. But are we investing in that asset? Are we investing to build up our skills and capabilities? Before the investment in products, before we can build products, or we build the skills and capabilities so that those products will be any good. So that's the key. And they know these events are run by our own staff. We learned how to do this. In fact, Taylor and I were just joking about this. He came in fresh out of college, and like the very first month or so, he was asked to come on stage. I asked him to come on stage to demo something, and he said, I bombed that one. I said, no, Taylor, no, you're emceeing the event, whole event with 2,000 people. So you can see that is the skill and capability that built up over time. And that's true in across the board, And I'm actually building my own skills. For example, I'm now in areas like compilers, in databases, all of that, and how they interplay with AI. I'm now learning new skills now, new capabilities in myself and my R&D team that I'm working with. So it's a continuous, lifelong process. It's what the Japanese called it Kaizen, right? Continuous learning, continuous refinement. And this is a very important principle. And this is, part of the reason why, so we are in Austin, we are in McAllen, all these places. Every human being needs space. And the space is physical space, metaphorical space. Breathing room to learn and grow and make some mistakes along the way. All of us are going to make some mistakes. So this concept of space, I apply it to everything. Do we have a space to make a mistake here in this? What room do we have here? Sometimes we don't, right? You're dealing with a extremely critical, mission critical system. Obviously, your space is constricted there, which means you have to test and set up what they call our shadow systems, where you have some space to make some mistakes. But you make all the mistakes outside the big stage. So that you have to understand that. Where do we have the space to do this? And derived from this is this conviction: expensive real estate is a cruel and regressive tax. The regressive part is important. It hits the people at the bottom 50% the hardest, the bottom 70% the hardest. No. Increasingly, the percentage of people it is hitting goes higher and higher. It's a cruel tax on employees. It's a prestige tax on companies. Like you pay dearly for the prestige location. So that's why the unusual locations come from. In Western locations, the question I ask is very simple. I don't ask what is the office rent there. You ask what's the average home price there. What's the average per square foot there. That's the metric I consider. Wherever we invest, if we invest there, if we hire people, can they afford a home? That's a very basic thing we ask before we invest in an area, before we open an office. And that, if a location is too expensive, we won't invest there, because I always tell, I don't want to bring more people there and subject them to the misery of this real estate regressive tax. So now let me come to the current, where we are today in 2024. And this is last week's news. This is Salesforce announced their earnings, and 52 billion of market cap vanished in 24 hours, 20% drop. So these are the words: measured buying behavior, elongated deal cycles, deal compression, high levels of budget scrutiny. It's, an AI can regurgitate all those words now on what a good earnings warning is like. So it has all of that now. So this, first to keep in mind, this from Warren Buffett's mentor, Ben Graham, who was in Columbia University, I believe, and said in the short run, the market is a voting machine, but in the long run, it's a weighing machine. So you will see this, the market is slowly adjusting to all of the input. The SaaS bubble, I mentioned tens of thousands of VC funded companies, that's steadily deflating now. What happened last week is the process of that bubble deflating, because it has no impact on us. We are private. I pay absolutely no attention to what is our valuation. I don't know, and I don't care. And then there's whole issue of customer fatigue. This tweet I pulled from, X. This is a really good one. And it tells you what is customer fatigue right there. It's like I'm using 17 different systems, each only costing $15 an hour. And that's it. Some of you, I'm sure this is how it resonates to your workflow, except the ones who are using 30 Zoho apps, right? So And that's actually this, I was fatigued into this 15 years ago. I said, I don't want to hop from system to system to system and use yet another system for a single sign-on, all of that. And I want, part of the reason why I invested in single sign-on, part of the reason we are investing in the directories, all of it is coming from this. How to offer the truly seamless end-to-end experience. Along with it, this is the licensing burden, keeping track of those licenses, who gets access to what, all of that. There's a lot of that customer fatigue now. Now, this is the formal data. Too much software has been sold. So, 32% of the CIOs report SaaS spend, a lot of it is underutilized or wasted. When you are paying $15, $20 per seat and that person logged in, maybe they log in once a month, once in a couple of months to check one report. They are still paying the full price for it. All too common, right? That's really what the concern here is. And then that correspondingly has given rise to too many companies, and they've all spent excessively on sales and marketing. And so tens of thousands of VC funded companies. And this is now coming up against this phenomenon, right? In fact, I am working in this area right now. I'm working on the foundations of how programmer productivity arises, how it interplays with AI. I can give you a quick summary of what my findings are, and you are going to see it in the industry. We're going to see a 10x programmer productivity, 10 times. And this is really fundamentally programming itself has been an activity it's a handicraft. You are hand weaving code painstakingly. So it's probably the last of the cottage industry, truly. And that's how programming has been, right? And you know about LLMs and content. You can ask it to write a blog post in, say, my style on this topic. It does a reasonable approximation, except that it has a truthfulness problem. It can make up stuff, make up its own facts. And so you kind of know when an LLM generated it. It can do a good job grammatically, all that, but it has that problem. In programming, when it comes to programming, it can generate code, and you have a way to test whether the code is correct or not. You can test it, you can run it, you can compile it, all that. And then you can create a feedback loop to the LLM. And you can improve the foundation so that it generates better and better code. That's where a lot of the effort is going right now. So the first jobs that could be automated heavily could ironically be the programmer's job. That's where that's my increasing conviction. I'm going to say, the more I learn about this, the more I spend time in the R&D behind this, I realize this. And this is the way I say powerful machine looms are coming. It's unavoidable. I mean, just like what happened in weaving and all of this is what is coming today. We are investing in this technology. I'm sure Microsoft and Google, all of them are doing it too. OpenAI, all of them are doing it. But there are different approaches to this. There's not LLM is one approach, but then the truthfulness problem, correctness problem, all of that. But these problems, I believe, will be solved in the next few years. You are going to see that productivity slowly come up. So this is the bottom line, the structural increase in productivity across software development. And these are numbers from a McKinsey recent report. Code documentation is 2 times faster. Code generation is 1.8 times faster. Code refactoring is 1.4 times faster. But all these are a current snapshot with currently available technology. I mentioned 10x. So some of these, particularly the act of coding an app, could be 10 times faster. You're already getting a glimpse from low-code, no-code platforms today, but you're going to see those grow up even bigger. In other words, I'd say the current low-code platforms will look like toy cars compared to what is coming in the next generation of these. So that's where it's heading. Well, this has a deep implication. This is a a venture capitalist who wrote this essay. Just last week I came across this. I took this quote out of this. This software is expensive because developers are expensive. You look at a developer, a programmer as a translator from what is stated, a vaguely stated requirements in a human language, in English, to a programming language more precisely. And LLMs are doing a decent job at it. Not a perfect job, but a very decent job. That's already shown to improve productivity, maybe 40, 50, 60% in many, many cases. Well, now I told you a 10x is possible. When software productivity goes up 10 times, are we going to use 10 times more software? Are we going to buy 10 times more software? Extremely unlikely. So what happens? I mean, this is the same thing in clothing everywhere, right? When productivity goes up dramatically, prices also drop. On the one side, demand goes up. Like you are able to make clothes 10 times faster, but we are not consuming 10 times, we are not wearing 10 times as many clothes. That means so you either take it on the supply side or on the demand side. To keep the supply lower, the demand goes up, but the potential supply goes up faster. So to keep the potential supply from getting out of hand, the prices drop, basically. So that the suppliers move out of the market. That's what happens. And he predicts, his stark prediction is software companies will be replaced the same way media companies were, and giving rise to a new set of platform. That's his conclusion. I don't know that I agree with it entirely. I don't have a full conviction on it. But directionally, I think this is worth paying attention. That's what I'll say. That this is the perspective I could see it. I could see the 10x productivity coming. I also could calculate that has structural implication for software, enterprise software, all of it. But I mean, he's gone to the edge of it and say there won't be many software companies anymore. I mean, maybe my paycheck doesn't allow me to see it so clearly yet, but maybe I'll see it. But this is where it's worth seeing this perspective. So this is where it is the rising supply, the more people making more software more quickly. And you saw the customer fatigue already. We don't have room for 25 more apps on our phones or on a daily workflow. So this is the landscape today. That's why I said current. Now, this requires conviction of our own. So what are our convictions? What do we do to navigate this landscape where you have a potential disruptive productivity force coming? We are working on it ourselves, so we know that we understand this. Well, we cannot build shelters after the storm has arrived. So you have to prepare ahead. And we have been prepared. We have been preparing for this. So because I've been aware of these forces, been prepared. Of course, the full product portfolio with the breadth and depth itself is part of that whole preparation. And we are investing heavily in security, compliance, privacy, all of it. But those things are not commodities. Customer experience, support, all of it. And then we already, this has been a long-standing policy in Zoho, offer very attractive bundles with deep value, a lot of things built in for you. We don't keep finding line items to add to your invoice. We say all of this is included. And this is the key. We are investing more and more. A lot of the hiring in the last 2 years has been in expanding our service and support offerings worldwide. We are hiring everywhere in the world to get closer to the customer. That's a very critical priority for us. Alongside, of course, a lot more pre-built integration across all of that suite. So those 30 apps are not just 30 discrete apps. There is a lot of contextual integration. Remember, this is a forever problem because you have, as you increase the number of apps, the exponential possibilities arise. I mean, in true sense, you have potential integration, not just n squared, but could be 2 to the power n. So if you have 30, you have 2 to the power 30 possibilities of integration. So that's how that exponentially the integrations grow up. But we pick and choose which ones are important to the customers, offer value, all that. That's how we do it, right? And of course, get ever closer to the customer with a strong local partner ecosystem. That's why our partners are here. We conduct these events together so that the partners are here. They can meet you and you learn. And so this is very part of our thing. Our company also, our revenue from partners is increasing faster than our direct revenues. And we like it that way. Because for us, that is a critical part of the whole value chain, the value creation. And I mentioned from our side, the product bundles, the security and compliance, all of it, the commitment to privacy, service and support, and this geographically getting closer. And that's part of it. In other words, we are not just a remote company that you come through a website or an app. We also have presence. You can actually meet people. That's what we are investing in, those capabilities. And thank you very much. Namaste.